What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about Liquid Armour, which are a company in South Africa that offer a rubber coating spray that you can spray onto your car or onto plastics or metals. It basically gives you a rubber coating on your car that almost looks like it's been spray painted. If you are from America or you're from Europe, you will probably be familiar with Plasti-Dip. This is essentially the same item as Liquid Armour. From the American or from the European market, you'll probably know what Plasti-Dip is. If you're from South Africa, then it might be that you don't know Plasti-Dip, or you have been researching Plasti-Dip but struggled to find it here because it is difficult and it is imported, so it's very hard to find. So in South Africa we get Liquid Armour, and this is essentially the same thing. And I just want to talk about in this video how I use Liquid Armour and how you guys at home, if you are looking to use something like Liquid Armour or Plasti-Dip in South Africa and you're in America, UK, or somewhere Europe or Australia, whatever the case may be, you can still check this video and I can give you some tips on how I use it and how I go about spraying with Liquid Armour or Plasti-Dip. First thing, that's the most important thing, is actually to prep your area. So what I do is I will wash the car first, or if I've just washed the car, say the day before or 2 days before that, or whatever, the car is very clean, it's been sitting in the garage. What I'll actually do is I will use a instant detailer or a spray detailer to clean the area. So what I would do is I'll use something like a Maguire's, or what we have in South Africa, which is called Shield. This is the Maguire's one, so it's only a small one because this was actually bought when my girlfriend's dad bought his Ford Ranger. He actually got this free with his Ranger. So it's essentially just a last touch detailer which just cleans the car, gives it almost like a waxy shine. But the one that I generally do use is this Shield one. So it's essentially the same type of thing, gives you a little bit of a shine after you finish cleaning your car. So what I do is, if my car's been clean, it's been in the garage, or I've not really been out anywhere and the car's not dirty, I'll use something like this, and I will just wipe down the areas and make sure that the area is clean and it's not dusty, it's not dirty, there's no little bits sitting on the car or whatever. The most ideal thing would actually be to wash your car and then make sure that your car is dry, and you use something like a detailer and then go and prep your car. The ultimate thing to do, but in this case, because I've already washed my car, even the week before, but the car's been in the garage, I have actually no need to wash it again. So best thing to do is to have your car washed. Once it's washed and it's dried down, and then you've used some sort of detailer or like an after wash spray, whatever you want to call it, apply that, make sure it's dry and your area is now dry and clean and dust free. So what you can do is you can actually go and cover the area that you're not going to use in a newspaper or a plastic, like a plastic bag or something like that. I used, for my brake calipers, which you'll see in the previous video, I actually used a plastic bag to cover over my brake disc, and then I used paper bag just to cover the arch and some of my paintwork, because not the after spray, but the off spray that you get from the can, it's absolutely fine if you've got a newspaper, because what this does is it's only going to soak up a little bit. But if you are going to spray a large area, I would actually rather use something like a plastic bag, because none of that paint's actually going to come into the plastic bag. So yeah, that's the first thing to do, is to make sure that your car is clean and you've prepped the area and there's no dust or contaminants left on the paint. And then the second thing is to make sure that your area is prepped. So you just make sure that your area within the vicinity is clean, is covered, and yeah, then you're pretty much good to go. So with the Liquid Armour spray, it's very simple to use, and you can actually read they have a how-to on the back of the can of how to use it. So what I would suggest doing, like what they say on the can as well, and I've tried this many a time, is to hold the can about 25 to 30 centimeters away from the area that you're spraying, and you basically just give it 2 dust coats. So this is just very light sprays that you just put over the area that you're spraying. It's not deep, not heavy, really looks so wet, the paint. It should actually just look very light and dusty. And if you're using something like black or red, it's very prominent. You should see the color. So if you go over with a dust coating, you'll see that the color isn't very strong, and you can still see the paint behind, or the color behind the paint that you're spraying. This is normal, this is how it should be, because again, you're just doing a dust coating. So you'll do one of those dust coatings and then you'll wait about 10 minutes or so because the dust coating dries very quickly. With a wet coat, which I'll come to later, it dries a lot longer. So the best thing to actually do is with the dust coat is just to wait about 10 minutes and you'll actually see that it dries very quickly. So after your first dust coat, you'll go with the second dust coat, which is essentially just the same as the first one, just a light spray over the area, making sure it's not really thick, it's just light, and that is basically that. We'll come to the wet coat. So the wet coat is basically a thicker layer that you put on top of the dust coats. So with this, I will generally try and put 5 or 6 of the coats on. Now, in my previous video with the brake calipers, I actually only had 1 can of the red. So I was a little bit stuck because I actually thought 1 can would be enough to do 5 to 6 coats on all 4 corners of the car. And it turns out I didn't have enough paint, so I had to just do what I can with the 1 can. So the best thing to actually do, yeah, is to cover 5 to 6 coats of the area. So you'll first do your first wet coat, so you'll just spray it over, make sure that it's thick. It should mostly cover the underside paint. So let's say you're spraying on a white surface, like for example, I sprayed my mirrors. So you'll spray it over your mirror. You already got your 2 dust coats, you spray it over your wet coat. Now this should pretty much cover the white underneath of your dust coats. So like I said, my car's white, so it covers that white. So that's how your first wet coat should be. So it should be quite thick. Now I've also noticed that with the Liquid Armour or Plasti-Dip sprays, very forgiving. So what I mean by that is that you can use, if you use it a bit too much, it's not a disaster and it doesn't really run. So unlike normal paint here, this one, if you use a bit too much, it starts to run and it doesn't look nice. Liquid Armour or Plasti-Dip, when you use a bit too much, it actually doesn't run so much. So you can't really go wrong with it, even if you think you think of it like a traditional spray painting, like, oh, if you apply too much, it's just going to start dripping. Yeah, it probably will if you do apply way too much, but generally, if you apply a little bit too much, it won't really make much of a difference. So on these wet coats, you want to apply about 5 to 6 of these coats, and you can go more if you want to, but I don't feel it's necessary to keep going that far. So for every wet coat, you should wait about 15 to 20 minutes dry time, and then after that, you actually see that it will start to go like a matte finish after every single coat. So once you start spraying, it will get very wet. Like you'll see, it looks like normal spray paint, it's very wet. But after 15 minutes or so, you'll see that it's actually dry and it goes to a matte finish. That's when you actually know the coat has been dried and it's ready for the next coat. So after you've done 5 or 6 of your coats, what you can do then is, depending on the area that you're painting, and also depending on your needs and what you want. In this case, for me, on my brake calipers, I use the gloss coat because obviously the wheels are a little bit shiny, and your brake calipers almost, if I left them as a matte color or as a matte finish, they would just look a bit odd having a matte and then a shiny. So for the brake calipers, I used a Plasti-Dip glossifier. So I actually could find this here. It wasn't too difficult to actually get hold of the glossifier, but it was the other paints that I had a problem with. But yeah, this one wasn't so bad. They're priced very similar to your normal coats as well. So if you're worried about pricing, they're pretty much the same. For my brake calipers, I used this Plasti-Dip glossifier, and it works like a charm. So last coat of your rubber spray, of your Liquid Armour or your Plasti-Dip, what you want to do is just let it dry, give it 15-20 minutes, and then you want to go over it with a glossifier if you're wanting a gloss finish. So you want to just go over the area like you would if you were normal spraying, and you want to apply it quite heavily. If you apply it too light, it's not going to give you a nice finish, so you want to go quite heavy over the areas. And for my brake calipers, again, if you watch the previous video of mine, you'll actually see how many coats I put on that, and I did put 3. So I would probably suggest going with 2 or 3 coats, but you can actually apply as much as you want. Just depends on how glossy you want them. But I would have thought that after maybe 4 or 5 coats, I don't think you're going to get any glossier than what it already is. So I would probably suggest just going with a 3 or 4 covering on your over your paint. You'll also find that having a top coat like a glossifier or a matte top coat will help to protect the rubber coating as well. So I would maybe suggest, if you are just leaving it as a matte finish, to get a matte top coat. It's just a clear top coat, which will help to protect the rubber coating for anything in the future. If you're not and you just want to go down the glossing route, then I would just go with the glossifier over the top, and you should be pretty good to go. So in the end, really, if you're using the glossifier, you should probably be applying around 9 to 10 coats in total. That would be totally ideal. Now, in this case, for my brake pads or my brake calipers, I only put, I think it was 7 coats because I was running out of red spray. So I had to just be a bit careful with how I was applying the red. But the glossifier, I made sure that I put 3 coats just to ensure that it seals the paint, and it seals to stop it from maybe getting weathered or just peeling in the future. So if you use a glossifier or a matte top coat finish, you should be able to get 6 months to a year out finish on your car. Just depends on also, you know, if your car sits outside in the rain, or you drive it often even, or whatever the case may be, it will obviously deteriorate more and quicker. So that just depends on your usage of the car. If your car sits in the garage, then I'm sure it will last probably longer than a year. And again, it also depends on which part of the car it's on. I mean, for something like my brakes, I found that my front brakes were a lot more greasier and dirtier because my car is more front biased on its brakes compared to my back. So I would probably suspect that the rubber coating will probably last longer on my back than it will on the front. So yeah, again, maybe in a year's time I'll have to redo the front again, but maybe not the backs, but I'll have to see when I get to that. I find that something like your mirrors or your door trims or something like that, you'll probably get away with a good year on it, so it shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, that's basically just everything that I wanted to go over about Liquid Armour Spray and also the Plasti-Dip glossifier that I used. Both awesome products, and I don't think you're going to go wrong with either Plasti-Dip or Liquid Armour, depending on which one you want to go for, which is available in your country or region, or yeah, whatever it may be. It's very easy to use. I wouldn't be worried about it if you're debating it. I was once debating it a little bit, like, oh, should I really go down that route? I know it's peelable and maybe it'll peel off, but the thing is that I see is if I go down the normal spray paint route, it may last a bit longer, but there's a lot more prep work involved. And also with normal paint, once you apply that normal paint, you can't really go back. So for example, like the chromes on the car, if you want to change the chromes to black and you want to use a normal spray paint for it, you're going to have to sand down the area, make sure you primer it, and then you're going to have to apply your spray paint. And once that's on the car, if it starts to peel in the future or starts to fade, you're then going to have to prep the area again, and you're going to have to do it again. And if maybe you sell the car on and the owner wants chrome, there is no more chrome because you basically just peeled off, or you've just sanded off all the chrome. So in this case, it is only a temporary thing. It's not permanent, of course, but I see it as a way of, well, if I can apply it onto chromes and make them black, if in 6 months to a year's time I have to redo them again, I don't mind doing that. At least I know that if I definitely didn't want it on a car, I can just peel it off. Or if I don't want it again, then I can just peel off what's on there and put it back to stock. That's essentially what it is that it's much easier to put the vehicle or put your parts back to stock. It just makes it easier for you in the future if you do want to revert to stock, and also for the next owner if they want to buy the car and they don't like black mirrors, they can actually just get something like a toothpick and just get underneath the Plasti-Dip, or make a mark in the Plasti-Dip, and they can just peel it off. And it won't damage the paintwork at all. So that's basically it. There's nothing really else for me to say other than to just, if you're really debating it and you're thinking about it, I would definitely go for it. I don't see any major risk involved with it. Just make sure that you prep the area correctly, and you apply enough coats, and you apply a top coat if you do have one. If you don't, it's not the end of the world, but if you want to, then yeah, for sure go for it, because it just will make your rubber coating last longer. So yeah, thanks for watching, and please make sure to check out my previous videos as well. I uploaded a video showing how I spray painted my brake calipers red. So if you've not seen that, you can actually go back and check that out, and you'll see also how I prepped the car, what I done with the newspapers and the plastic, as I said before, and how I applied it onto the brakes. I'm going to be spray painting some more on the car soon with this Liquid Armour black rubber coating. So please make sure to subscribe and to keep a lookout on the channel, because there's going to be some more coming soon. My Instagram will be in the description below, and also Liquid Armour's channel. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.